We are live, and boy, do I have a great guest for you guys today. He is John. He is the president of the Tesla Owners Club of Silicon Valley. I believe this is the biggest club of, official club of Tesla. They do amazing events. I've actually attended a couple of them. They have one coming up, huge event in August. We're going to talk about it for sure. If you're anywhere near California, you must attend. And I believe they actually allow infidels like us and still join their events even if you don't have a Tesla. But we'll find out from him directly. Now, John has done something that I can only dream about, which is he interviewed Elon Musk. And I don't mean for like 5 or 10 minutes really quick. I mean, they had a sit down interview. There were a couple other people who I know, Ryan of Kilowatts and Eli Burton of My Tesla Adventure, another two fine gentlemen. And I want to know, one, how do you get one done? I think there's a cool story there. Uh, and I know it will never happen. Even when I fall asleep and dream of this, I still get denied my request for the interview with Elon Musk. So I know that will never happen, but I want to live vicariously through John, see what happened behind the scenes, because I'm really curious about what happened there. Secondly, I do want to know why never the list of questions I want to ask him ever matches the questions that actually being asked. But whether, in that interview or other interviews, it is a mystery to me. But at the same time, I also want to talk to John about just kind of a state of Tesla community, because it has definitely evolved since I was a fan and since I was organizing events from 2012 and 2013 when I got my very first Tesla. So we're gonna do all of that. He is awaiting in our green room, which is actually a virtual green room. And it's not as green as mine right here, but he's patiently waiting there. I'll bring him in a second. We're gonna start very soon. Welcome to E for Electric, the place where we expose the truth behind the electric car headlines. If you haven't subscribed yet, there's your chance. There's a subscribe button right there or there. You can click on that, and of course, don't forget to click the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, before I bring John in to ask him a million questions. And by the way, if you're watching me live, don't forget to let me know where you're watching me from. And there's Elon Musk fan who is in the who is in the audience. All right, so super chats will take priority. We will try to take some questions from the audience. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. We're gonna go over a few things. So he got to interview Elon Musk several months ago. I think it came out over a period of time. Tons of questions. I have notes. I have some clips. We're gonna go over all of that. But before that, I want to remind you guys really quick that this video was sponsored by CCAN. Tired of waiting for your Rivian electric truck? Well, get a chance to win a free one right here, as you can see. Or they're also raffling off Tesla Model S. The link is in the description of this video, and you can help out a scrappy nonprofit fight climate change. And buy Energy Pal. Want to lower your energy bill and make sure that it doesn't go up for years and years and years, while your neighbor's bill does every year? Well, let Energy Pal custom design a solar solution for your house that will cost you nothing up front. As a matter of fact, you'll get $500 gift card once installation is complete if you use the link in the description of this video. Both are great services. The CCAN raffle ends very soon, so you better get into the description and get a few tickets yourself. By the way, Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley, I put a link to that in the description of this video, and to all three parts of the Elon Musk interview. So I strongly recommend watching it, especially if you're a big Elon Musk fan. There's a lot of stuff covered, a lot of stuff not covered also. But let's bring John in. John, how are you doing, my friend? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Been a fan outside. I originally saw some of your content through Eli, obviously through the owners program and stuff. So it's finally cool to actually be on the show. So it's been, and it sounds like you're in the Bay Area itself. So
I know, yes.
you're boomeranging around and stuff. So it's great to be here.
I have been. So, listen, you run. Am I correct to say that you run one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Tesla fan clubs in the U.S.?
Yeah, so we're an official partner to Tesla. So we're not just, I guess a fan club per se, but we are the largest club in North America. If not, you could potentially say a lot of Europe. I mean, there's some clubs I think like Norway that are actually bigger than us. Parts of clubs in China are bigger than us. But again, we're a region. We're like 50-mile region. So we're bigger than again some countries, right? Even in Europe, and even clubs that are statewide. So, but it's partially because obviously we were the old headquarters for Tesla, so that's partially why we're the most dense population in the world per mile. I guess is the way to look at it. But yes, we are the largest one in North America, probably in most parts of Europe as well.
And I can vouch firsthand that your events are amazing. The ones that you do with, Eli and I think Marty from Sakal Club, which I don't think is an official one, but nevertheless, it's an excellent one in Southern California.
Okay.
Um, and I know you have one coming up. We'll talk about it in a few. But let's get to what I really wanted to talk to you about, the interview with Elon. First, let's just talk about how this even kind of came about. Like, how do you get an interview with? I never can even get like close to his people, much less to himself. I only met him a couple of times, and it was a chaos. Walk us through how does one score an interview with one of the most in demand human beings on Earth and Mars, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're going to get into this a little bit, but it's partially, I think the backstory really is like there's just been kind of a relationship that I've had with him over literally the past 4 or 5 years. So it's not like I'm a random person that's popping up in his feed asking for the interview. We have been one of his most vocal supporters, and I know you've been a long-term EV, even Tesla owner. You saw the crazy hell that through really in 2018, 2019, and even before that, right? So it's one of those things where, it's kind of been this relationship really with him. I've exchanged emails with him, over the years. And so this all happened literally on Twitter. Him and I were going back responses, talking about the early days of Tesla, specifically a lot of FUD and maybe fake news. But again, based on his perspective, he just feels like there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so I was going back and forth like, hey, let me just throw out the question. Will you? Can we interview you? Let's get this recorded. Let's get your perspective recorded. And literally, he was like, okay, sure. And then I was like, I pretty much crapped my pants. I don't know if I could say that, but like, literally, it was crazy. And then he literally was like, we should get JB to come. I think he on the additional thread. And then actually, yeah, fast forward. So I think it's like a month and 7 days later, the guy, I literally couldn't follow up. I tried, several routes to follow up. Is literally the day before Memorial Day, May 30th, when the interview happened. This guy was on Twitter. I was like, "Yo, when are we doing this interview?" He's like, "Tomorrow afternoon." And I was like, I literally showed my wife at a supercharger. I was like, "Yeah, like that's gonna happen, right?" Then again, I was like, I took the tweet, shot him an email, and he responded like, "Hey, I'm doing my own scheduling now. Come by tomorrow at 2 p.m." And I was like, well, where? First off, so I was able to like again somehow, um, you know, follow up with this again. I haven't communicated outside of Twitter, which has become popular, to be frank, for over a year. So when I shot that email, I didn't expect a response, but somehow, again, maybe I was unfiltered out. And so I was able to follow up via email, and within 4 hours, I was or on an airplane. Halfway through that, I was able to confirm with him that it was going to be in person in Austin. So we were on a plane. Like I literally asked him three cities: Austin, LA, or Fremont. Where will you be? And again, I was able to confirm the location. those things where, um, we were, and like I said, but we were either going to be, I was expecting a Zoom call. We were either going to be in Austin at a hotel Zooming with him, or we were going to be in person at the factory. So we were banking on a lot happening. And a quick shout out to Ryan from Kilowatts. He was the guy pushing for the in person. I personally was just thinking, oh, this is great. We're going to do a Zoom call. I was just happy with that. But he's like, no, like if you have the opportunity, let's do it in person. So he was the videographer. So that's why, that was like a huge call. Again, I was thinking, I was I was small minded. I was like, let's just do a Zoom. So that's kind of, again, the context was early days of Tesla. That's how I scored the interview. Clearly, he wanted to get that off his chest. But again, this all happened via Twitter.
All right.
So
Now,
dreams can come true.
not mine, not mine. But so let's talk about, like, okay, so now you get there, right? You are in Tesla territory. It was Austin, right? I believe. Luckily, he wasn't in Shanghai, though. That would have
Yes.
been also an interesting trip. So you got to see him like no one else really. Well, not of us common folk has, right? Behind the scenes, tell us how kind of, I mean, you walk up, he walks up, he's Elon Musk, right? What it's like. Tell us a little bit about, what happened behind the scenes, before and after the interview, because I'm assuming that's actually the most interesting part.
Yeah. So beforehand, like we were kind of joking, and I think I had even put a couple tweets out about it. Like literally, I was like, "Hey, record us as we're rolling up," because it was going to be one of those things. Are we going to roll up to the Austin factory and say, "Hey, we have an interview with Elon Musk. Name's John. We have Eli, Kelvin, and Ryan in here." Like, it was either going to be one of those things they stick us to the side and we stay there for 30 minutes looking at each other, or it's going to become one of those things they know who we are. We roll up, they know who we are. The supervisor comes and they literally take us to the back of the factory. We walk in to, I think, their main conference rooms. Again, the factory, the way it's built, I think one specific floor is all employees, or at least the ones that are not on the production line. So we just, they walk us in literally, and you can see the backdrop of the factory literally right behind us. And so we waited a little bit, got everything set up, and then literally the dude walks in. And again, we had no timeline set. I thought I was going to get maybe 30 minutes, max an hour. He walks in, and yeah, like we just go up and I say, "Hey, my name is John," whatever. And then we literally, I forgot what exactly sparked it, but literally we started talking about chocolates for 5 minutes. And that was kind of the
Okay.
icebreaker. Yeah, it was kind of like, because like, you'll hear him, he's talked a little bit about like, making his own chocolate, or like, and he knows a ton about the history of chocolates, about the fact that like, like the reason why Hershey's were made were literally because they wanted to have the longest shelf life. So essentially, like, take like the worst case scenario for making like real chocolate, and they essentially built the longest shelf life chocolate. But either way, so we literally talk about
That was
that.
my mistake, because I didn't lead with chocolates. By the way, I was going to tell you, it's not for the lack of trying. Like, here's a tweet from the other day from me, right? Just saying, like, hey, because he was complaining how he's being attacked, right? I'm like, well, I'm here to, maybe conduct a independent journalist interview, right? So it's not that I haven't tried throughout the years, by the way, to
Yeah,
try to like catch him in that correct moment when
yeah.
he's tweeting. I don't know where he's tweeting from, and he'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So no, but okay, all right, chocolates. Okay, got it. I made a note. I made a note. Go on.
And then I'll kind of fast forward to the end, because I think you were mentioning kind of the beginning and the after. But long story short, I was like it ended up being 4 hours, 2 to 6 o'clock, right? And it was one of those things where I was doing time checks with him, like, "Hey, are you good on time?" Like, I didn't want to overstay, right? In case there's ever an opportunity to come back. I wanted to be very respectful of his time. But again, this is a day off. I don't know what you're doing on a day off, but here he is again, free time. So we're done at 6 o'clock. People come in the room, and essentially we're kind of getting kicked out, but it's because they're going into a meeting. So they were jumping into an autopilot meeting at 6 o'clock, on a Monday holiday, and it's just that's what was probably shocking, right? I did kind of know that it was a holiday, so we might get extra time, but I didn't think he was like literally there was employees wait outside, probably waiting an extra 2 or 3 hours to jump on a call with him. But it's because he essentially delayed all that to have time with us.
All right.
So that's some of the insider information that I don't know. It's just it's shocking to think like I don't know many people that have that type of drive, right?
Yes, yes. But I always think about the employees, like, like it's really hard to work for him because, of 6 o'clock meetings at night of the holiday. And so by the way, here's an interesting comment from Len. He says, Elon knows that you quit the fan club, Alex. And so I kind of did. And actually I wanted to ask you this a little bit earlier. So I'm sure people have told you many times, especially when you announced you're going to be here, it's like, yeah, don't go to this guy's channel. Like, he's a Tesla hater and Elon Musk hater. So I even till this day believe he's one of the most important human beings on the planet, just because I hate his methods, but he is getting us there, and while everyone else is just arguing, right, and doing nothing. I sure would not have had. I don't know if you're aware of this, John, but I do this for actual living. This is my main job, and it's
Yeah,
insane. And you know what? Who I have to thank
awesome.
mainly is Elon Musk for it. I would not have this amazing job. But I have quit his fan club because of many other things that he has done. And what? And I wanted to ask you, right? What is your view, and maybe also expand, and what do you think the rest of the Tesla community thinks of him now that he has shown some, maybe not the most perfect colors and he is human, believe me, right? Well, what's your thought? What's your thought on that? And what do you think the Tesla community generally thinks of him right now?
Yeah, I think so there's a lot of stuff coming out. I mean, literally, I think last this week it was the Sergey Brin affair. A month ago, I don't even know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was the affair. And he's obviously been very outspoken, and I think even Sergey Brin's like wife's lawyer spoke out that all that stuff was false. So right now, I mean, like, I think the biggest thing is the jury's still out on a lot of things that come out against him, right? I think that's the biggest thing I've been able to take. And I personally haven't ever, I mean, you see a lot of this stuff happening in politics, but I don't think I've ever seen or known someone, or I don't want to say I know him super well, but been a part of something where I just see like countless hit pieces coming out, someone being attacked who's actually, and even you said like, we're all here. I'm starting a club. I mean, yes, it's as a thanks to Elon, right? Like, there's just a lot of stuff that he has done that is disrupting industries, and I think ultimately that's just rubbing a crapload of people the wrong way, and why this stuff is coming out. I live. You're in the Bay Area too, right? It's kind of again, I don't know. Not necessarily to get in politics. It's kind of one way thinking here in the Bay Area, right? And so he's been recently coming out saying, "Hey, I'm going to vote Republican," and he even responded back to me. I think he's going to, he said he's interested in DeSantis, but there's context there. The political party that he's been supporting all of these years is literally ignoring him at the EV summit. Like, here GM's being propped up as the EV leader when they only produced 26 EVs in that same quarter that they hosted the event. And so it's one of those things where it's shocking, like, just to see, yes, there's going to be a lot of, he's kind of like a free target. I mean, we even talked about advertising, right? Like, imagine, New York Times puts out a shit post on GM, and yet there's an advertisement right next to that about GM. What's going to
Well,
happen is the VP. Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to say
no,
something?
sorry. And yeah, it's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up, because you guys did talk about the fact that, and by the way, he just complained just the other day that there's a lot of negative attention to him right now.
Yep.
And actually, that's what I replied to. So I remember you guys talked about how, he thought about maybe, advertising, because, every time it's hard to advertise a brand and then talk poorly
Yeah.
about it, right? Now, I know a
Yeah.
little bit about it because I've had some, brands, including Volkswagen and a few others, Xpeng Motors, to advertise with me, and then people think that makes me actually speak kindly better of them. But no, I don't, and I've lost sponsorships. As you can see, Volkswagen doesn't advertise anymore. They might in the future, but I've been really harsh on them, like lately. And so it is absolutely true that it's hard to be a journalist and have
Yeah.
brands advertise. And I've been cut off. I've been cut off from Rivian and GM and I think Ford now because of criticizing and I don't mean advertisement. I've been cut off just like they don't want to bring me to media events at all or give me any
Yeah.
of their vehicles, right? So I know that. However, and this is where I kind of want to hear your opinion about it. The first brand that cut me off when I criticized them was Tesla, actually, when they did have a PR department, right? So I guess, what would you say? Because he did mention that, and he now has no PR department at all. You know, why not? What do you think about that? What do you? I mean, isn't that a little bit of two-edged sword for him to say that while he was doing exactly the same to people who criticize them, and still does? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been one of those things where even if you kind of look at Elon and kind of his history in some ways, and you kind of see this kind of come up if you think of Elon as a person, right? He was bullied a little bit when he was growing up, and that's not an scapegoat. In that, you start to see sometimes he will fight back. He will say things like the UAW, the SEC, like people that will come after him. He will kind of like obviously, um, he will like kind of fight back. But I do think that some of his biggest critics he has cut off. Yes, I ultimately don't really know why, but I think at the same time he may just be tired of hearing all of the, certain. He may be tired of hearing certain things. Like I know he blocked a reporter, Laura, in the Bay Area. I've met her; she's a cool person.
He is a great person, actually, and I think she
Yeah,
reports.
she's a very nice person. But at the end of the day, I think it's just some of the stuff that she's saying is it may not be stuff he wants to hear. So that's kind of been his prerogative. I've seen him do that, obviously with some people. But yeah, I mean, as far as the PR department, I think he's just hyper focused on building great products. And he sees everything as research and development. So if the roles aren't like literally helping, progress that, I think he kind of sees it as more of a cost of good and more of something that's potentially expendable, right? I mean, I bet the finance team at Tesla is very lean. I bet there's everything else, all very lean teams. I mean, you talk to most Tesla employees, they're all super strapped. They're all super busy and working a ton. And so they all, and I think they just had that 10% layoff. I knew, several, the whole data labeling team was fired. I knew a couple of them were actually members, so that was really, really unfortunate. But he sees every person, every role as research and development. And so there's certain roles specifically like PR and marketing. I think he's just, even at this point, like, does he need it? Probably not, because he's just going to tweet. He's literally the best marketing device or PR person. I mean, clearly, like, again, with the whole Sergey thing, he gave it a day or two and then he spoke out about it.
So, I mean, I hear you. He is definitely, I give him full props for actually fighting back. I think a lot of people don't fight back at all. And obviously that, but sometimes you fight back and sometimes you don't fight back. Sometimes you go like, you know what? That was my bad. And I guess that's kind of the issue sometimes I have with him. And, I get a lot of hate for it. Like I already get, I mean, if you look at the chat, I'm getting some hate from obviously the hardcore Tesla fans, and I'm gonna absolutely allow it here. But you know, uh, let me play one of the things before I kind of maybe start comparing the list of questions I would have loved to ask him. Let me play a couple of clips that you guys
Of course.
from the interview, and maybe you can comment on that. So let's hear this one. Is I think about the factory in Austin.
How's reception been of Tesla moving into Texas?
I mean, it's been good. Um, I mean, the thing about building the factory here, that's I think should be noted is that we built the factory here in less time than it would have taken to get the permits in California. So the typical permitting time for a greenfield in California is 2 years. 2 years, and you're going to get sued by. You're just going to get sued because you're in California. Like we didn't get any lawsuits here, and we got the factory built in 18 months.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so a question about this one, because I as someone who does business in California, California is awful state to do business. He's absolutely right. I'm all with him for that, and he's right. The benefits of doing business in a state like Texas are huge. However, and this is why, like, this is when I was watching, I was like, oh my God, I wish I was there to ask this. And I would have wanted to know, isn't it weird? Isn't it almost a little embarrassing that you brought all this business to the state, right? And yet it's illegal to buy a Tesla in a state where you're making it. What are your thoughts on that? And let me ask you this. Why not ask that question? Or maybe was it looks like nobody told you anything, like ask this or don't ask this, right? You guys had a full freedom to ask any questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, let me just unpack the hood a little bit as far as like, so my mindset going into this, I didn't expect 4 hours. So and maybe this is where, again, I have a day job. I'm in tech. So I'm not a professional interviewer. I literally run this club, this is kind of more volunteer basis, whatever. But just to unpack that, like I literally, I scored the interview to discuss the early days of Tesla. The first hour and a half were early days of Tesla. And then the remaining like 2.5 hours, literally were just anything else. To be frank, like I didn't really have a list of questions prepped after that. And this is where a lot of this conversation is, you could partially, put it on me as far as I didn't think it was going to go that way. But that's where then you start to see Kelvin, Eli, even Ryan, the videographer, asking him questions. And it's partially because, again, when I got through the first hour and a half, I didn't even think that, we would get that far. But again, I scored the interview to discuss the early days. And then from there, it was just free range. And yes, I didn't prep and, be like, hey, let me figure out these hard questions I'm going to ask him. I literally was like, my focus is early days of Tesla. And we even took those questions and I shared them with the other guys to say, hey, what questions do you want? I'm going to ask these. But literally we were free-forming at that point.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want to be clear. I'm not even putting it on you. I mean, there's three other people in the room. There were many other interviews. There's a third row Tesla who interviewed him. He's been interviewed many times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely, and I understand that this interview was set up as more of a fans talking to the person they're a fan of, so. But I always, go ahead, man.
To answer your question about Texas, I haven't heard your full opinion. I 100%, I guess I could say maybe 100% agree. I obviously haven't heard your full opinion, but yes, it's completely stupid that we literally you move your headquarters to a state where you literally didn't tell them, hey, I'm not going to move here unless you allow me to do sales. That's like, I'm still, asking that question myself. I think in his head and what he shared, at least, and it's not that we weren't thinking, but to answer your question based on what he shared, he said literally, what is the morally right thing for us to do? If we can literally stand up in 2 years, because again, like the way he was saying it, it'll take us getting permits in California, it'll take us 18 months. And, again, so if he can start producing, I'm making this up. Again, the whole mission of Tesla is to accelerate the future for sustainable energy and transportation. And so for him, if he can start producing, totally making this up, in 3 years, if he can start producing 100,000 cars, 200,000, 400,000, whatever the numbers are going to be out of Austin, versus in California, if you're going to add more years onto that, I think that's where he was saying, what is the morally right thing to do? And again, for him, the morally right thing to do, he may not have been thinking about all of the pros and cons per se. And again, I'm not defending him, but it's just more of like, yes, going there, that would have been definitely one of the things. If I was negotiating the deal, it's like, all right, I think it's Governor Abbott, bro, like we got to be able to sell here. Like I understand you got a big dealership model, big oil heads here. This has got to change. So that's probably like definitely like one critique. But I think, literally living in the area, when did you move to the Bay Area? I know it was pretty recent, but
Well, so I moved back to the Bay Area 2 months ago, but I lived here
okay.
since 1992.
Okay. So yeah, you've been in the Bay Area, but during COVID, they were the only factory that was shut down in the whole nation, car factory that was shut down. Alameda is again more on probably the far. I don't. They're more on the side of like very cautious with the pandemic, a lot of lockdowns, whatever. But they were being the edge case out, and again, out of that whole thing, it's like, why are we getting? So he was starting to make comments about potentially leaving California at that point, and then I think there was an issue with, I think an official or like some governor from San Diego or something like that that he had a pick with. But again, she's probably not the reason why he left. I think there was a lot of greater issues because even now he's like, I love California. It's the best weather. But I just think I think he just kind of, it was for them, at least again, what he shared, it was what was the morally right thing to do to accelerate the future of sustainable energy and transportation. At least again, that's what he said. But yes, the critique of why would you not negotiate the contract? It literally makes no sense.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm afraid to go into the can of worms you just opened up. I actually, one of the worst things that I think he said ever, uh, besides accusing a random guy of pedophilia, it was about that 2 years ago when he tweeted saying that the pandemic was going to be over in a month, and we now know that was
Fair enough.
probably one of the false statements. So I'm not really sure if I want to go there. I mean, okay, let me ask you this. Well, do you agree that maybe that wasn't the best thing for him to say in 2020, that pandemic was going to be over in a month, when now we know?
Yeah, yeah. Like I mean, as you'll know with me, right? Like I'm a fan. But he's not perfect. He's gonna do and kind of say things, but even being like, let's say, an investor in Tesla, like I take that with the full package, and I know that. And again, I've been around the bend. You've been around it a lot longer than I have, so you've seen the ebbs and flows of like how he is as a person. So yes, I definitely don't agree with everything he says or does. But you partially, if you've been around the bend, you know that partially comes with it. And hey, so for some people that doesn't work for them, they don't want to put their money in Tesla. That's fine. That's up to you, right? But for me, I know what they're doing. I know what the product roadmap is going to look like over the next 5 years. They're easily going to be able to grow at 50%. They are the single source at reason why we are accelerating and why all these automotive companies are making these adjustments. I mean, Ford became two companies. Um, Porsche came out with the Taycan. You have Lucid and Rivian, who are also coming out as well. But they are the single reason why we are accelerating into an EV future, right? They're the stakeholder that really, I think, broke the cherry, broke the back to make that happen.
Oh yeah, I believe that without Tesla, there would be no electric cars at all. As a matter of fact, the Nissan Leaf and the BMW i3 and Chevy Bolt, or EV1, dare I say, all of those electric cars that were around in early days, I think they were actually making case against electric cars until Tesla showed up and say, no, they don't need to look this fugly. Yes, they can go much further. Yes, they can be much more powerful. So I think it's actually, I credit him single-handedly
Yep,
for turning everything around. And
totally.
I think he will also do it with, obviously space exploration and artificial intelligence and so forth. Like I said, I love what he does. I just don't like the way he does it, which, brings
Fair
me,
enough.
and well, it's not fair enough, because a lot of, the most hate I ever get on, I mean, people tried to cancel me, right? Like, what's his name? Warren and a few other people. And I can see people in even this chat who I'm assuming big Tesla fans that would love to cancel me. And I get this hate all the times for simply saying, hey, maybe he is not perfect and he is wrong, and maybe he should do things differently. Just saying that is already, well, here's one right there. Like, I didn't even have to look that far. I literally just looked at my screen, and already here's another. Another Alex that tells me that I'm a hater. So now, here's where I kind of got sour on him a little bit, and or maybe even a lot over time, is because, and I would like to know your opinion. And there's a clip I wanted to play. Um, at first, when Tesla came out, like I said, I thought they were going to push. They're going to be all for electrifying everything. And I thought Elon was. I remember Elon said, "I don't care if Tesla goes belly up, as long as that gives everybody a chance to switch to green energy and alternative energy." But then, as competition did come out, he started kind of bullying them almost. Bottom line, right? And let me play a clip here. Which, by the way, Rivian and Lucid, you guys didn't even bring it up. This was kind of him bringing up those two
Yep,
brands. Let me play it, and then I'll get your comment about where I'm trying to go with this.
of
You
course.
know, unless something changes significantly with Rivian and Lucid, they will both go bankrupt. They're tracking to bankruptcy. They may not say like that is currently like if this were an airplane, they're going like that. So if something happens to go is change, okay. But currently, the intersection with doom.
Yeah.
So I hope they are able to do something, but unless they cut their costs dramatically, they are in deep trouble. And we'll end up in the cemetery like every other car company, with the exception of Tesla and Ford.
So here's why I have a problem with that. First of all, he picked on two companies he has actual personal issues with, right? He's suing Rivian for poaching. He doesn't like the fact that his former chief engineer is now heading a company that's done a few things better than Tesla has. Um, you know, do you think he is kind of responsible for kind of making enemies out of people and brands that probably should have been allies?
Um, yeah, I could potentially see that. In that I think he has been somewhat vocal, specifically with his issues with Lucid, and some of the things that they've done. But I do think that I think he partially takes it with a grain of salt, in that, like, I think ultimately the mission of Tesla is obviously to push and accelerate a sustainable future. But yeah, I definitely think if that there's certain things that potentially happen on a personal basis, he could take that personally, and it could become one of those things where, yeah, it's Tesla versus Lucid, and you know what I mean. And yes, the mission is stated there, but it's become one of those things where, yes, it can become a personal issue. At least um, that I could see that for sure.
All right. Now, and I kind of thought that the other brands, and especially he had a personal relationship with Peter, right, the CEO of Lucid. It could have been such a bigger collaboration between the brands, because bottom line is, electric cars are still in the minority. We still need a lot of
Yep.
convincing to do, and I think the more we stick together rather than throw mud at each other, right? I don't like when other brands do it either. By the way, when other brands attack Tesla, and I think it's just counterproductive to the whole concept of going with the sort of a green energy uh, 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 you know concept, and it's something that we need to have. I feel like we're
Mhm.
all on the same page, right?
Yeah,
Like, this
like
needs to happen.
even for our club, like, again, we like, even for our club, like, we, like, for example, we're gonna have this big event literally next Saturday, and we're literally inviting we did invite Lucid and Rivian, the company, both of them. Rivian declined just because it sounds like they're super busy, and but we have owners, Tesla owners, that um you know own Rivians or switch from Tesla to Lucid, so they're coming. We're actually going to be showcasing them in this section of EVs, and so we're super open to it. I mean, like, there are some brands that we're open to, like, if we got a GM Hummer, that would be acceptable. So we definitely try not to pick sides. Like, for example, not that this even matters. Like, do I have, like, there's one company that makes it harder to be a fan of in this whole transition, and it's partially because of social media. And again, I'm not. It's mainly Ford, and I'm not going to give names, but just seeing how they kind of, unfortunately, they have attacked people within the Tesla community specifically. And don't get me wrong, it's kind of gone both ways, but it's just like, if I see people literally at a company literally attacking fans on social media, it rubs me the wrong way. So I think, again, if we had, I mean, we didn't invite Amaki or any of that stuff. I'm sure if one was, around, we could potentially add them, but it was just one of those things where I think outside of Lucid and Rivian, like super accepting of them. Same thing with VW, GM. I think Ford again is just more of like more again that's personal, but from a club standpoint, we're accepting of all EVs, right? At the end of the day, we're all on this mission together, trying to push this forward.
Yeah, and so a couple of things that I kind of have to say. So I truly believe that the whole mud throwing thing, Elon has consistently started that, and I hate to go to the kindergarten level, right? He does it all the time. He throws mud at the competition, at people personally. I think my favorite, and I mean this thing that I really hated, is that when he called the guy a pedo, who was actually a hero saving kids in Thailand. I think this is something that I feel like Elon and I think it's just generally even Tesla community can't really complain. It's kind of like, remember how you said that you like that he and I like that he stand up for himself. I think that goes for everybody. If Tesla, Elon Musk, or Tesla community has a lot of voices that attack others all the time.
Yep.
Third row Tesla got literally canceled by electric because of that, right? And Warren and a few others have gone very beyond even like acceptable means. So I
Yep.
think it's only fair if the mud throws the other to the other side. Though I also would encourage you, and I think you've done that, and if maybe encourage a lot of people in this chat that maybe a little bit too much on one side or the other, is to distinguish between the brands and the people who like them, right?
Mm.
For example, I love my ID4, love the car. Absolutely hate what Volkswagen has just done. I mean, I just made a video how they have just made such a big step forward, and I hope they get punished for it, by the way, right? I've done a video about their software issues that have still not been resolved, and I've done a video about how I really don't like what they did with the ID Buzz. But I love my car. I may not love the brand, but I absolutely love every single person who drives an electric car because they are on our side. Do you think there might be some room for improvement in the Tesla community to maybe not be tolerant of other brands, but be tolerant of other owners of other electric cars?
Yeah. I think there's two types of fans, right? Like, I mean, you're one of the OG guys. Excuse me. There's two type of fans now, right? There's literally the fans that have been around a minute, and those are probably less and less now. And there's the new type of fans that are coming in, and this is the majority. They're probably buying a Tesla because they think it's the best product out there. They want to drive it. It's got the best charging network. Again, software updates, all that stuff, right? But are they buying it because they want to see the sustainable future? Are they buying it because of the mission? There's a huge distinguishment. I mean, I know we have members. Literally, we have a whole actual modded crew of Tesla owners of Silicon Valley. They literally just bought the car because it was the best car, and they want to modify it. But do they still drive ICE cars? Are they still ICE heads? Sure. So I think it's just one of those things where there's several the makeup of and I think this is again maybe where you want to go, but like the community is vastly changing, right? It's becoming more of a normal brand, even though sure the EV space is very small still, but the average Joe, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, because again it's very small, but more and more people that aren't all about nature and the environment are getting into Tesla now, right? Or becoming Elon Musk fans. So I think it's just one of those things. Sure, there's always room for improvement, but at the same time, like as this brand grows, 2 years from now, this community is going to probably look a lot different than it is today. I've even noticed it again. I know a lot of the OG Tesla community members on Twitter. Thankfully, I know them, but there's been a lot of new people coming in, and sure, I know some of them, but I don't know them as much as the other ones. And again, yes, there's been probably a lot more canceling, a lot more throwing stones at each other, but it's just one of those things where that's going to continue to keep happening. And so, like, even as a club, I try to operate in a way where we're more neutral. I think even in the early days when I started the club, I tried to pick sides and stand up for people, but I've matured a lot in that regard, and so it's just one of those things where, hopefully everyone, if they're true to the Tesla mission, they're going to hope for all the competitors and everyone to do well. But at the end of the day, not everyone's buying a Tesla because of the mission, right? I mean, it's an expensive car as well, right? It's it's a luxury vehicle. So, people are going to buy it because they think it's the best car. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. I thought part of the mission is to convince people that they need to buy the electric cars, not just because they're electric, but just because they're better. And I think we've kind of almost there with that part. So I actually don't have a problem with people buying a Tesla just because it's just an amazing car, rather
Yep.
than because And by the way, it's ironic as we're talking about how we should be friendlier to each other and not cancel each other and not be, you know, a lot of comments are exactly, unfortunately, that way. Like, for example, like, why would anybody buy a Volkswagen? You know, well, there are reasons. It's like a guy who is with a tall, he's got a tall, white blonde with big boobs, and he's like, why would anybody date a black girl, right? It's like, we have reasons, right? Trust me, I can
Mhm.
do an hour of why would I buy a Volkswagen over Tesla, but that's me. If you love
Mhm.
Tesla over Volkswagen, by all means, but it's not even, this guy wasn't even curious about like one thing that somebody would want about something that this guy did not choose. And for example, here's another one. It says, Mr. C says Warren is a scam, lol. Now, believe me, my relationship with Warren started with Warren calling me an idiot and a shill for Chinese automakers. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I also don't like this, right? This is essentially a call to cancel him. And I think yeah, like, I think everybody should coexist. They might be a little bit nicer than Warren. They should be nicer than Warren, but we're always taking this 100% side and 100%. Yeah, no, Warren is not a scam. It's his real opinion, and he's a fan of Tesla, and he's obviously an investor who wants to protect his investment, but he's not a scam. It's just, I just disagree with his opinion. Why
Mhm.
can't we just say that? It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think,
you
I
know.
mean, it's one of those things. Like, again, I've learned a lot, right? Over even the 4 years of like running this club. It's similar with Laura, who's the reporter, I think, for CNBC. Again, a lot of FUD, a lot of hate. But I see her as a person. I know she has kids. She, like, at the end of the day, these are people, and so unfortunately, we are in this cancel culture where people will do whatever they can to essentially do their best to remove people. And so, I think it's just one of those things where we need to start seeing people as people, right? Like, I mean, I to be honest, when you hit me up, I didn't even think anything of it. Like, sure, you may not be the biggest Tesla fan, or maybe you're not. I don't know if you even call yourself a fan at all. But I didn't second guess it because Eli sent the email. But even if he didn't, I know who you are. So it's not like it's one of those things where I was like super nervous to get on this call and like was scared that you're going to say something to me, because hey, we can disagree, agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, like, we're all hopefully helping push EVs forward. And I'm just probably I'm going to be a biased Tesla fan through and through. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you love your VW more and you would tell your aunts, your uncles, cousins, whatever, to buy a VW over Tesla, that's for you. Like, for example, I would never tell someone to buy certain brands. That's just not me. Sure, go buy an EV at the end of the day, but I'm going to tell you all day why you should buy a Tesla, right? Like, that's just how it's going to be. But sure, if you end up with a Mustang Mach-E, or a Rivian or Lucid, like, that's great. But I'm not going to disown my friendship with you just because you bought a
Yeah.
Mustang.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I am a huge Tesla fan, but I think people misunderstand what kind of fan I am. I'm a fan of Tesla owners. For example, I just put out a video about how, Tesla is essentially just about to screw, all of the Tesla users by allowing people like me to supercharge at their superchargers when
Yep.
you paid for it, and
Yep.
there are still lines sometimes. This video was about protecting the Tesla consumer, but everybody in
Yep.
Tesla community, I shouldn't say everybody, most people took it as an attack on Tesla. It was an attack on Tesla as a corporation, but this was in defense of Tesla consumers, which I think it's very unfair to them.
And
Um,
that's interesting. I mean, I haven't watched the full video, but I would agree with that opinion, in that it's going to suck from an experience perspective to literally have all these other EVs on it. But when you look at the
Absolutely.
Tesla mission, that's why they're doing it. But from my experience, I don't want a bunch of other EVs at the Tesla supercharger. Like, I get to meet other Tesla owners, and especially when they start more and more EVs come out. Like, imagine 3 or 4 years from now if it's still open, and I don't know if Tesla would ever pull that back. As far as like maybe to help it out for the next 3 years, that they open it up and then eventually they pull it back. But it's gonna change the user experience, especially going. I mean, you're in California as well. Going from here to LA, I hope they like that's the last thing they do is opening it up, because imagine on Memorial Day weekend you're coming back on a Monday and it's like there's
I
already a
was
line for Teslas.
I was at Tesla Supercharger, and I was in my video on a regular Sunday, and it was a line, and I thought it was unacceptable. But
Yeah,
listen, we only have a few minutes left, and I really want to plug your event. And you also have a
totally.
question that's a super chat. So, by the way, there's another one that said that it gets a lot. Being a Tesla hater gets a lot of views. That is so untrue. It gets way less views, and it definitely gets way less income. So, see, people don't even understand how this works. But it's a $20 super chat for Carl. I appreciate it. This is he says, can John answer this? I bought a used 2018 Model X. It had adaptive cruise, which is basic autopilot. After buying it and adding it to my app, it was removed from my car, and they now want $3,000 for basic or $3,000 plus 6,000 for enhanced. So I don't know what the question is, and I guess we can't just kind of help everybody here, but a quick comment if you don't mind.
I think what happened is he bought it. So what happens is, let's say I buy full self driving on my Tesla, and then I sell it to CarMax and they resell it. Tesla removes the full self driving on that, and then I think they charge. So I think that's what he's saying. So yeah, it's not great, but ultimately, I think you purchased the car at the price, and hopefully the dealer told you what you were going to get with it. So you should have taken that into consideration. Like, you bought the Model X. Again, I'm making this 80,000, and you should have known probably that it didn't have autopilot, so you should have baked that into the cost. But yes, that is one thing Tesla does.
All right. Now, listen, I want to talk about your event that's coming up. Now, I've been to several takeover events that I think you either co-sponsored or organized. I have to tell you, they are excellent, and this one is going to be amazing. There's Andy Slide and Sandy Munro and a few other big names that are actually going to be there. I know there's a rumor that Elon might show up. Even though I'm going to be showing the footage, obviously, of the previous events, please tell us, and I know there are still spots available. I actually would like to come myself. Tell us about the event. And by the way, thank you so much for being here. You did not have
Yeah.
to do this interview. I told you up front that I'm going to ask you questions that maybe not the best and nicest. We weren't going to have a hand holding ceremony here. So I appreciate you being this. And if anything, I got to tell you, if you can get here and answer questions, that are maybe not the friendliest to you and the Tesla community, I think the richest man on earth can probably do the same. But that's just a guess. Comment on that if you want, but really, I want to hear about the event.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I think I do think people need to be able to talk to people that have varying opinions. So hopefully you get that interview. I'm rooting for you. Hopefully you can. But yeah, so August 6th, 2022, literally next Saturday, we are having the largest community event run by the community. So for the community, by the community, we've already sold over 1,400 paid adult tickets. So when you factor in families, we'll probably get up to 2,000 people when you include kids. This event is literally going to be. We have over 40 vendors. Unplugged Performance, for example, they're gonna be there. We have Arcimoto, if you're familiar with the FUVs. There's going to be a ton of activities for kids, a ton of food trucks. Arcimoto, again, they're going to have like a whole track just so you can try out their vehicles. We're going to have Super Beast skateboards there. You can ride their skateboards. So if you have a Tesla or a fan, or again, we have Lucids and Rivians coming, or if you're just an EV fan, come out. It's going to be a great event for the family, even to hear some of your favorite YouTubers. Again, there's Sandy Munro, Andy Sly, Ross Gerber. We have Tesla Joy, Tesla Rock. I mean, just a bunch of great speakers. The list is there at teslatakeover.com. But yeah, this was all sparked actually, from Eli and Marty. That this is kind of why we're doing it. Something that started at Fireball, I think about a year and a half ago. So but yeah, come out August 6th.
Absolutely, and I put a link to your club, and then there's a link to the event in the description of this video, and all the 3 interviews are there. By the way, Tom Malogny, State of Charge, is also in the room. A little late, Tom, but that's okay. But all right, let's see if we can take really, like, we have about a minute left or so. Let's see if unless there's anything else you want to mention. Okay, so here's one. Your last video with Monroe was about FSD. Why was that your last video with him on your channel? Thanks. Yeah, so Sandy Monroe is no longer on my channel for a really good reason. This is not the time to talk about it. I actually was a guest on another channel, and I explained why, but this is not really the conversation. So, all right. Listen, John, I once again, listen, thank you so much for this. And I really hope we actually can do this more often because, you are really one of the biggest leaders of the Tesla community. And that's what I'm about. I am about the communities and consumers of electric cars. I'm not the Tesla or Rivian or Lucid and Volkswagen guy. I never will be. They're corporations. And I think a lot of times they're what they want is very different from what I want for consumers or what consumers want. But, thank you so much for doing this. I'm actually, let's talk about this, privately. I actually would like to make it to the event. And let's do this again. And thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, we'll hook you up with a press pass, man, so you won't have to pay to get in. So, but
Cool.
either way, yeah, you send me an email after this, or I'll follow up. But we really appreciate you having I really appreciate you having me on the show. Again, been known of you for years now, so it's really cool to kind of finally make an appearance.
Absolutely. Let's do this again. And once again, I hope to see you in about a couple of weeks at the event.
Yeah.
And I know whether I come or not, it will be an amazing event. People must go there. It's guaranteed to be a really good time. So thanks so much, man. Have a great the rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you next week.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Alex, for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Quick thank you to Rob Miller, who just threw $20 at me because he really wants me to get guac in addition to my regular Chipotle order. I really appreciate that. I know there was a lot of questions, and maybe we can carry this over to the next time we do a live stream. And half of them were how awful of a Tesla fan I am, but that's okay. So thanks for watching. Thank you to all of the super chatters. Definitely thank you so much to John for joining me. He did not have to do this. And absolutely, if you're ever near California, try to go there. It will be an absolutely amazing event. And put the link to it in the description of this video. All right, guys, looking forward to all of your comments. Other than that, see you next time. And remember to stay charged.